Hi, this is David Addison, and you're listening to the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast.
Hop in, buckle up, and get ready to lay it on the line. This is Not Speeding, Just Qualifying, a podcast that's just as fast as it sounds. Welcome again, family. I am David Lars, and this is an all-new episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. I appreciate you for joining me today. Before I get started, make sure your qualifying setup is dialed in and ready to go for pole position. Hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel or search Not Speeding, Just Qualifying in the podcast section of the YouTube Music app to subscribe today. Yesterday, I gave you a history and started our preview on the 2025 24 Hours of Spa with the voice of GT World Challenge Europe, Mr. David Addison. We still got a lot of ground to cover, so I'm not going to waste any time. Picking up right where we left off yesterday, here's part 2 of my interview and conversation with David. Contoyu Racing and Aston Martin, they come into this year as the defending champions. They have even kept their same lineup, the trio of Italian Mattia Drudi and the Danes Marco Sorensen and Nicky Team. They're back together, but they face a steep hill because since the GT3 eras came in, no team has successfully defended their Spa 24-hour title. Why, in your opinion, do you feel it's so hard to repeat?
I think some of it you could level at the door of something else which might confuse people, and that's called the balance of performance. Now, let me park the Aston Martin question for hopefully no more than a minute and go off on another freeway down the balance of performance route. You've got all of these different cars in GT3. As you say, it's a single class race in terms of the specification of the car. You've got front engine, you've got rear engine, you've got normally aspirated, you've got turbo, you've got big engines, small engines, heavy cars, light cars. The balance of performance tries to level out that playing field. Now, it's a really difficult thing to do to get all of the cars to equate. But perhaps inevitably, if you've done really well at Spa in one year, your balance performance is really going to be scrutinised for the next. Now, I'm not saying that if you win, you're deliberately given a bad BOP to make sure you don't win the year after, but maybe it's looked at in such minute detail that you are certainly not going to have the same BOP as the season before. But I'm saying that as a thought, because I'm not involved in the balance of performance, and that's done by a very clever technical man called Claude Sermont, who manages to make it all work. The other element to it is luck. And at Spa, you need to go to the nearest supermarket when you get there and buy as much luck as you can fit into your car. Wow. Because with 75 cars, 76 cars on the grid this year, there's normally some rain at some point in Spa. It's a race where no matter what you're doing, the result is kind of out of your hands because you can be on a really good strategy, the car can be fine, and then all of a sudden you come across gravel on the road that's been left there by somebody making a mistake. You can either spin or you pick up a puncture, or then you have to swerve around somebody and you get muck on your tyres and you find yourself in trouble. You can speed in the pit lane. You can get done for track limit offences. You know, we had 2-3 years ago in the night, there was a full course yellow called and somebody slowed quicker than the car behind. Boom. I think it was one of the WRT BMWs that was demolished. You know, quite a lot of it is out of your hands. And so I think that is part of it, that there's this phrase that we were using at Le Mans the other week about you don't win Le Mans chooses the winner. And yes. Spa is a little bit like that because you've got to get out of it trouble-free, and doing that is really difficult. I mean, you know, if you just picture in your mind what's on the entry list? It's 3 pages the entry list goes to. Right?
That's right. I just looked at it right before.
Yeah, I mean, it's nuts. 76 cars going up through Eau Rouge on that first lap. You know, that's going to take a long, long time. So the leaders are going to be in traffic from lap 4, 5, maybe as early as that. And then they're going to be doing that for the next 23 hours and 15 2 minutes, So you're always going to have traffic. You're always going to have to just catch your breath before you commit. The pit crews are going to have to be on their toes. Again, with so many cars, just think how crowded and busy the pit lane is going to be. Let's say you've got a great strategy. You've done a mega stint. You come into the pit lane. Fantastic. Fuel's in. You're not going to change tyres. You're going to save time on this pit stop. You're ready to go. And in the pit box in front of you, somebody peels in at the last moment. Oh, hang on. I haven't got enough lock to get out. They've got to push the car back, and then you can wriggle away. You've lost 4 or 5 seconds, which was out of your hands. You could not control that. You can talk to the team maybe and ask when their next pit stop is. But there are so many other factors from outside that can trip you up, if you like, at Spa. Right. And I think that, in answer, a long answer to the question about people not being able to repeat it, is luck doesn't ride with you 2 years running. It's gone off to find a new friend.
It does. And I do appreciate you for breaking down the balance of performance, because I know a lot of people struggle so hard with trying to understand it. David, in your previous answer, you mentioned Spa, and I just want to talk about the track for a moment. It's really one of the last great tracks. Even in its revised format, is far gone from the original loop that was public road, but still one of the most daunting, some will say dangerous, but one of the most exhilarating tracks. What is the allure of Spa that keeps bringing these drivers and teams back every year?
Because there are very few circuits like it which have the elevation change and the history and the speed, because Spa is still a fast circuit. If you think about one or two other places, if for GT racing, if you take Bathurst, okay, now Bathurst is another great circuit in its own right, the Australian circuit, which has the 12 hours at the start of the year. Bathurst's quite narrow. It has reasonable speeds and it has a couple of nice long straights, but it's a hard track to overtake around because it's relatively narrow. It's public roads. I remember the first time I went there 20 odd years ago, we drove onto the circuit in a rental car and did a lap round because the track was open. It was public roads on that day. Right. And I remember thinking as we went out of the first corner, God, it's narrow, but any moment it's going to get wider. And it never did. It was narrow all the way around. Spa, because it's a modern day Formula One track, has to have a regulation minimum width. And that means that you can overtake around there. It's fast. It's got some great corners. If you go down Eau Rouge up towards Radion, you see the cars bottoming. There's that massive compression all the way up the Kemmel Straight. Your foot's to the floor. You're climbing, and then you're hard on the brakes, and there's the chicane, and then you drop down the hill the other side. You've got Pouhon, which is that long, fast left. You've got Blanchimont, which is a long, fast left as well towards the end of the lap. There are some great corners in there that the drivers love. And it's like all the classic 24-hour races, whether it's Le Mans, whether it's Spa, whether it's Daytona, it's one that people want to add to their bucket list, not only of racing, but if they can, of winning. I think Spa is a fabulous circuit. I love going there. I love Belgium because one of the great delights in my life is Belgian beer. So to go to a GT race and drink Belgian beer, I could not be happier. Personally, I think it should be a 96-hour race, and then I can stay there for longer and drink more beer. But that's by the by. But it's also a brutal race, and I think that's another reason why people come back to try and win it, because there are incidents aplenty. We've just had a Le Mans 24 hours where there was one safety car period, which was unheard of. I will put a bet on with you now that we will not have one safety car. There'll be more than one safety car period at Spa. Otherwise, I'll run around the place naked. I'll be amazed if it generates only one safety car, because with such a big entry, there are going to be incidents. There are bound to be. But the circuit, to go back to the original point, is just a mega place. It's got so many challenges to the driver. It's not an easy circuit. Okay, it's not like the old road course, but that couldn't have gone on forever. It was, public roads, and it was dangerous, and. Spa is still a challenge, but it's less dangerous. There's obviously the runoff areas, and with Formula One going there as well, circuit safety is always being addressed. So you have can we call it a modern classic? It's got the feel of the old place, but it's a modern, safe circuit. And I think that's another reason that drivers like racing there, because they've got that challenge, but they also know that it's a safe track, or the infrastructure is there, if you like, to make it as safe as it can be.
Love it. And Spa, you mentioned Bathurst, two absolute classic tracks I just love to follow. Love the 12 hour, love the 1000 out there. And Spa just truly is, like you said, it's a modern take on old school, which you can't really go wrong with. Now, you mentioned the Belgian beer. I had this question, so I want to go ahead and bring into this one. As a broadcaster or as a fan, and if you want to say Belgian beer again, please, you're more than welcome to. What is your favorite portion of the Spa 24-hour weekend outside the on-track action that you look forward to every year?
I quite enjoy the drivers' parade because that is. I don't go to it every year, but when I do, I really enjoy it because you suddenly appreciate what you miss, if you like, when you work in something, when you're involved in a championship or whatever. You become quite blasé about it. You know, I'm lucky. I can stroll down the pit lane. I can walk into a garage. I can trip over a car. And then all the cars out of the 24 hours and pretty much everything out of the support races on the Wednesday evening drive behind a pace car along the public roads down into the town, and they park, and the drivers are there, and autographs are signed. And the place is gridlocked. There are people everywhere. There are people on the roads. There are people hanging outside the bars. There are people in the town. They are everywhere. And that's when you suddenly appreciate that this is more than just a motor race. This is an event with a capital A, capital E, you know, and taking it to the people and seeing their passion and their enthusiasm, I think is always quite humbling in a way, because it kind of reminds you how lucky you are to be involved. But it's also a brilliant way of getting more people into the sport. You know, you could be in the town on the Wednesday, all of this noise and racket happens, you go look at the cars, small boy falls in love with a Aston Martin or a Lamborghini or whatever it may be and wants to go to the race, and hopefully you've got another GT fan hooked, you know?
Absolutely. And that's why I love those events. I know Daytona, they have something similar, I think, on the Wednesday where they kind of bring the teams and the cars around. And that's how you win people over. That's how you make new fans. It's always what you do on the back end that makes it so much fun. So, David, Teams Win Spa back in May for the test day. Based on what you saw, and we do have two endurance races, part of the Endurance Cup. Power Card that was won by Team WRT, Monza, which was the last race of World Challenge Europe, won by the American Windward Squad. Based on what you saw on the test day, along with what you've seen in the first two races of the Endurance Cup, which manufacturing teams are you favoring to be in contention come Sunday morning if all goes their way?
My answer to this doesn't work brilliantly on radio, but for the benefit of everybody listening, I'm holding up three pieces of paper, which is the entire entry list, and I'm waving them in David's camera. All of those people, all of them. No, I would put some money on Mercedes AMG. I think the Man Filter Windward car, Mauro Engel, Lucas Sauer, Matteo Cairoli, I think that's got a really good chance. You never, even though they don't have a lot of luck at the Spa 24 hours, you never rule out the number 32 Team WRT entry. Charles Weerts, Kelvin van der Linde, and this year Ugo de Wilde, who is new into the team but not new to GT racing. As an outside bet, I would look at the Gold Cup, Aston, Harry King, Chris Lullum, Thierry Vermeulen, because that's been really good over previous races. The Audi is a durable car, but I don't think it's quite got the outright pace. Porsche, never rule out Porsche. Rutronic's 96 entry, which is your Niederhauser Muller car. That's a possibility. I'm struggling to remember the guys, the extra driver. Alessio Picariello is the third driver. That's the other car. The Schumacher CLRT car, which is Ayaan Guven, Lauren Heinrich, Klaus Bachler. That is a quality driver lineup. But then you keep on looking and you think, well, hang on, there's another Mercedes AMG here, which is Lukas Stolt, Jules Gounod, and Fabian Schiller, which led at Monza. They had a wheel that wasn't connected properly. Now, that kind of ties into questions. Who's your money on for this one? And why don't you keep winning at Spa or going back to the luck element? You know, that car at Monza was outstanding. It was quickest in, if not all three, certainly two of the three qualifying segments. It led all the way up to the pit stops. Luca Stoltz got on board and a wheel wasn't done up properly, and within a lap the car was out of the race and parked. So it's not just about the car, not just about the driver, it's all about the pit crew as well, and making sure that everything is well drilled. And David, you've seen enough long distance races to know that in the dead of night mechanics get tired, finger trouble can spell disaster for you. So there are lots and lots of cars on paper, lots of manufacturers on paper that could do it. But I would suggest the big three would be BMW, Mercedes-AMG, and Porsche. I struggle to think, for example, that the Corvette is developed enough to do it. I struggle to believe that McLarens have got the longevity. I struggle to think that the Audis are good for a class win, but not good for an outright win, because I just think those cars now are just getting a little bit old. Ferrari, maybe, should have won last year, but for Alessandro Pierguidi finding a car blocking him in the pit lane. If you remember, the Hugo Cook Lamborghini had expired in the pit lane, and about 15 seconds later, Pierguidi came in, and that was the race that got away. The Aston Martins haven't really shone in the previous World Challenge races, so that's why I'm coming back to my big three of Porsche and BMW and of Mercedes-AMG.
And I got to mention this since she brought it up, that Gold Cup Aston Martin. I think you might know the guy who owns this car, Max Verstappen. Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah, I've heard of him. He works for Red Bull. Is that right?
I think so. Competes in a series called Formula One, right?
Yeah, and it's a Verstappen.com team, effectively. Max, under a pseudonym, went off and drove a GT3 car on the Nürburgring Nordschleife a few weeks ago. And I'm reliably informed by people involved in the team that Max is far more committed than you might expect. This isn't a vanity project for him just putting his name on it. He doesn't yet get the chance to come to the races, but he's very involved, I gather, in some of the sim sessions and some of the data sessions. If the team are doing a sim session and he's available, he'll log in and watch and talk to people in Discord and really get a proper feel for it. So, not only is he involved by name, but he's certainly involved with offering thoughts and experience. We know he's a very good sim racer as well. There's that relationship with Chris Lallam, who's got a good pedigree in sim racing. But I think that's going to be an interesting one for the future, to see where Max's life takes him as either a GT driver and or player manager, team owner, as well as maybe driving in the future. But right now, it's great to have that name on the grid. The car looks stunning, whether it's the Aston or the Ferrari that they ran in
DTM
Spring Cup.
Yeah, Spring Cup. Okay. But I thought they did it in DTM too. That's
as well. Yeah, I think Thierry Vermeulen's in DTM as well. So it's really good to have that involvement. We've had 3 seasons of Valentino Rossi within GT World Challenge.
Or he went to
Wale is coming back this year to do the 24 hours, and people from outside the GT paddock inevitably bring a lot of attention and a lot of interest. All right, this is Max by name, not by driving, but when Valentino arrived, it was just mind-blowing, the number of people that suddenly arrived at a GT event. And most of the weekend, they seemed to be standing around in the paddock waiting for a glimpse and an autograph from the great man. But he certainly brought a lot of people to a new form of motor racing. And maybe Max Verstappen in the fullness of time can do the same.
I love it. And I just love how Max, say what you want about his driving style, but the man is passionate about racing. All right, I got to put you on the spot, David. 4 p.m. Sunday. Who emerges from the bus stop chicane? Who are you calling home to win the 78 Spa 24-hour?
It's a Mercedes-AMG. It is the yellow man filter car, and it's going to be Mauro Engel to bring it home.
Wow. Awesome. All right.
Mauro, I think I've just condemned you, but that's my suggestion.
I hope we have it. But real quick, before we finish out, I love to do a hot lap segment with my guests. It's going to be 3 rapid fire questions. So here we go. In F1 style, Sector 1 is, what has been your favorite series to cover?
GT World Challenge Europe, because all the races are different, because you've always got a pit stop element, and you can go from 1 hour all the way up to 24. So GT racing has given me some great races to call.
Sector 2, you have been a well-traveled man. You've been to plenty of countries. Of the countries you have not been to, which is at the top of your list to visit?
Not been to. Can you send out the safety car to get me out of the gravel, because it's all got really quiet. In Sector 2, I've had a big off. What I'd like to go that I've not been to. New Zealand.
Wow, I love it. But no, New Zealand's an awesome place that I also want to add now that Shane and Scott have been here. And last but not least, Sector 3, and I love to ask every guest that I have this question. What is the biggest item, motorsport related or not, that is on your bucket list right now?
The biggest motorsport item on my bucket list would be...
related or not.
Related or not. I've been promised later in the year by a friend of mine who owns a GT3 Audi, a driving in it at Silverstone.
Wow.
And that, I have to say, I'm massively looking forward to. I will be slow. I will be nervous as hell because I don't want to risk his car. But to actually drive a car relevant to what I broadcast on, that's definitely on the bucket list, and that looks like it might get ticked off in September.
That I'm excited for you for that. I can't wait. I can't wait to see it on your socials. Speaking of which, where can we follow you, find you, and keep up with you?
Instagram, I'm David Addison 718, and X, I am Addison_DJRA. So you can find me there, and if you're watching the Spa 24 Hours, then get in touch. I'll try and keep an eye on socials, as well as 5 pages of timing and pictures and everything else we have in our booth. So if I don't get there instantly, bear with me, but I'll try and get there soon.
David, this has been a blast of a conversation, a wealth of knowledge, so precise. I have loved every second of it. Hilarious. Best wishes to you and the entire commentary team up there at Spa. I will definitely be watching. Enjoy it. Have a blast. David Addison, pleasure to meet you. It's been I already consider you a friend. Thank you for your friend. Thank you so much for the time. I truly appreciate it. David Addison on the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast, everybody. I apologize in advance for these last 2 episodes being a little bit longer than my normal runtime, but I hope you see why I made the decision to make this a 2-part episode. And if time wasn't a barrier, David and I could have went on for hours. That's just how much fun the two of us were having. Literally a barrel of laughs. Absolute fun from beginning to end. A million thanks to David Addison for his time, his passion, and enthusiasm. I personally cannot wait to hear him on the call this weekend. And he'll be joined on the SRO commentary team in Spa by another friend of the podcast, Ryan Marine, the lead commentator for GT World Challenge America. Again, best wishes to David, Ryan, and the entire SRO commentary team as they bring us the action all week long. You can catch all the on-track action from Free Practice 1 on Thursday to the Checkered Flag and beyond Sunday. You can stream all the action on the GT World YouTube channel. Make sure you check out the GT World YouTube channel for session and live stream start times. The 78th CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa goes green Saturday, 4 p.m. Central European Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific here stateside. And one last note, just a heads up, if the race does happen to be geo-blocked here in the United States, you can watch the Spa 24 Hours in its entirety streaming on Racer Plus. Now, here is our outlap as we preview the upcoming motorsports weekend and where you can watch each of these series here stateside. The Autobac Super GT Championship is heading to Sepang, Malaysia for its one and only race outside of Japan. Catch the action Sunday. Subscribe to stream on motorsport.tv. The World Rally Championship is in Greece for the Acropolis Rally. Catch all the action Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Subscribe to stream on rally.tv. MotoGP is at the TT Circuit Assen for the Dutch TT. Catch the Saturday Sprint and the Sunday Grand Prix on FS1. For all other on-track action, subscribe to stream on MotoGP Video Pass. Formula One is in the Austrian Highlands for the Austrian Grand Prix at the Red Bull Ring. Watch all the coverage Sunday on ESPN2. Formula 2 and Formula 3 will also be in action. You can stream those races on ESPN+. Moto America is at the Ridge Motorsport Park in Washington. Catch all the Saturday and Sunday coverage. Stream Superbike on Peacock and NBC Sports Now Fast Channel. Select races will be streaming on YouTube, and all on-track action you can subscribe to stream on Moto America Live Plus. AMA Pro Motocross is in Massachusetts for the Southwick National. Catch all the action Saturday. You'll see a race live on NBC. The entire day will be streaming live on Peacock. NHRA is in Norwalk, Ohio for the Summit Racing Nationals. You'll see final eliminations Sunday on Fox. And NASCAR has a full slate of weekend action. Catch the Xfinity Series from Atlanta Friday night on the CW. Catch trucks in the ARCA Menard Series at Lime Rock Park. Truck coverage you'll see Saturday afternoon on Fox. The ARCA Menard Series you'll see on FS1. And rounding out the weekend, NASCAR Cup Series kicks off the in-season tournament under the lights in Atlanta. Catch all the action in prime time Saturday night as NASCAR returns to TNT. Make sure you go online and check for final broadcasting times for the event or events you are interested in. All right, family, that's our episode. Thank you for tuning in. Are you listening and have a topic or series you want us to cover on the show? Drop a comment on any of our episodes and let us know. You can also reach out by email at dalmotorsports@gmail.com. The email address again, dalmotorsports@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you all. We also would love for you to connect with us on social media. We are on Blue Sky, X, Instagram, and TikTok, all at the same handle at NSJQ Podcast. Subscribe to our show so you don't miss whenever we drop new content for the pod. Also, like and share our stuff. The more you like and share, the more YouTube starts recommending our shows and content to others. Lastly, if you want to follow me on my personal social media handles, links to those will be in the description box of this episode in the show notes. I'll talk to you all next time for another episode of the Not Speeding, Just Qualifying podcast. Until then, I'm David Lawrence. Always remember, you're not living life to the fullest until you're going flat out. So long, everyone.